There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. Happy New Year, first and foremost. I'm the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, my trusty co-host, Ayrton. How you doing today, buddy? Ayrton McCartney. Shit. A couple days without doing the intro, and it just falls the fuck off.
I'm surprised you don't have it written down by now, just in case.
Why would I write it down? I literally say it 4 times a week. Even when we're on other people's show, I'd say it, and then act confused like I'm not on my own program. If I'm on another show and you're not there, I do the intro and then act confused and look for you.
like a bad case of herpes you just can't get rid of.
I mean, honestly, I could, but I haven't tried to yet. You keep coming back despite all the abuse. You're like a battered woman.
Yeah, something to do, isn't it?
Yeah, well, all right. That's what my wife says.
Right?
Man.
You did ask me a question, didn't you?
Yeah, how you been doing this week?
Okay.
How's the New Year treating you?
Pretty good. I'm glad that... what are we, 4 days in? So far, so good.
4 days in. 4 days in. About to cross over into 5. I'm not sure exactly how long this stream will go. It's a little bit different. We talked about this previously at the end of the new year, so anybody who was around for that. Oh, what's going on, Einbrecht? Chad Middleton in the chat. How's it going, guys? I talked about this, and you really seem to jump on the idea. Now, what we're doing tonight is part 1 of a 52-part series where we will review in full DC's 52. That's the goal. Now, whether we succeed at that goal, that remains to be seen. But I have good feelings about it. I really like this series. It's one of my favorites. It's only 1 issue a week. You know, it's not like we have to review an entire trade every week to keep up. That's probably what will happen when we have to start review, or when we finally start reviewing Secret Wars 2015. But
yeah, if we ever get to that one.
Yeah, so I took notes on the issue. I read it today. Novel Bro, how's it going, buddy? I reread the issue again today. Hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I have a 4-year-old trying to take over the show. She's adorable.
Fair enough.
But, no, after rereading this today, like I said, I felt really good about it. I think it's a pretty good idea. I think we'll make it through it as long as you catch on to the book and you actually enjoy the story of it.
Right.
Because you never really...
so far.
Well, even when you were reading a little more frequently, you never really bought into big events or anything like that. So the idea of big events are not really your thing. You're more of an individual issue, short story kind of reader, right?
Yeah, I more prefer that. But, you know.
As much as I hate the practice and think it's a cash grab, when a good event story comes together and you actually get out of it what the writer put into it, I really have no complaints. There are a couple, mostly DC, but a few Marvel stand out. Civil War was actually pretty good, even with all the tie-ins and shit. But, 52, The Crises, a lot of those events are actually very good reads. Identity Crisis is a fantastic one. And they all kind of seem to seep through and tie into future events because of the aftermath of what happened during these huge, ginormous fucking events. So
yeah, I think I'm trying to think. I think I read when it was coming out part of Blackest Day, like the first
Blackest Night,
little
Brightest
bit
Day.
of at least, or yeah, Blackest Night, yeah. The like at least the first like bit of like the Green Lantern like parts of the like main parts of the tie-in.
Yeah.
But I don't think I actually read the entire thing. I think that was probably the last like big.
It was pretty
guess,
huge. I think it was.
Crisis
I think it was over
event.
200 books when it was all said and done. So that makes sense that it wasn't something you would have read in full.
Yeah.
But 52 is a nice, compact little storyline. It's self-contained in its own title. Obviously, things that happen in the world of DC are around it in other titles. I believe did coincide with what was happening in 52, but I don't know that there were any official 52 tie-ins. I take that back. There was Countdown to 52, but stuff like that. But the story itself was pretty self-contained in these pages. So, as an experiment, I wanted to kind of read through it one issue a week, and because of the format of the book, it makes it really easy to break down into the days of each week as we go through. So
it's almost like this was written for assholes like us who are really bad at planning shows.
We're not really bad at planning shows. I think we plan some really interesting shows. I just, we're not the most organized group of individuals.
Well, okay, yeah, that's fair.
Now, before we get into this, like to extend to the chat. How was everyone's New Year? Hope everyone was safe and content and well lubricated, should they want to be. Me myself, I actually picked up a bottle of Elijah Craig bourbon, small batch.
Nice.
Yeah, there was some leftover gift boxes, and this one came with a nice rocks glass and an ice mold. And I've got to say, I'm digging this ice mold.
Nice.
Yeah. There's one out there that looks like the Death Star, and I really want that one though.
Oh, I've seen that one. That would be sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it only holds a shape for like 15 seconds in a drink, but for those 15 seconds, you are badass.
Hey, whatever.
But
doesn't matter.
As someone who usually shoots his bourbon and sips his scotch, this Elijah Craig small batch is a great mid-shelf bourbon. If you like just relaxing and enjoying a bourbon on the rocks, no mixers needed. None of that really heavy Jack Daniel's charcoal taste or anything like that.
Nice.
It's very smooth. It gives you a little bit of that I don't know, that barrel aging on the tongue, and then it just goes down like water. It's dangerously good. And for the price tag, you really can't beat it. I think I got a bottle for like $35-40.
That's pretty good. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, what was the last bourbon I drank? I think it was the Woodford. Is it double oak reserve or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Apparently Woodford is really good. Like this Elijah Craig actually opened my eyes to actually drinking bourbon again. Maker's Mark kind of turned me off of it for a little while as far as sipping bourbons.
Oh, of course.
Matt Christie has arrived. He is late, but not gay or muted. Happy New Year, Matt Christie.
Well, that's
welcome to the show. We just kind of recap what we'll be doing, going through the 52 series, issue by issue, week by week. If you guys like this kind of stuff, let us know, because again, this is kind of a weekly, once a week format that, as long as we keep up, by the end of the year, you'll have the entire story down. So, And depending on
If
how
you
long this,
absolutely hate it, let us know.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we're always open to negative criticism in that regard. But if you just are mad about it, feel free to keep silent, and we will take that as it stands. But with that, I guess we probably can go ahead and get into it, unless you have anything else you want to add or bring up before we start.
Oh, I do want to just point out we have a little uh, random hamster update from Mr. Don Chin. Apparently, somebody did a clay sculpture of Clint and posted it on
Oh,
Twitter,
I didn't
and
see that one.
that's because he boomered up tagging us in it and forgot the @ on your name. Hold on a sec.
Oh, fantastic.
There, you should be able to pull it up.
All right, there we go. Oh wow, there you go.
Isn't that cool?
All right, let me grab this and pull it up for the people. That is awesome. All right, let's see here. Browser. Do, do, do.
I love that he always tags, like, anytime
Anytime they come
like
up,
he comes across something with the hamsters, he tags us in it, and I love it.
yeah.
it,
So there is
it
there is a clay
makes me
version
laugh every time.
of Clint. I look forward to the claymation movie of Clint in the future.
There we go. Yeah, do the Clint arc with Wilhelmina Fisk and all claymation.
All claymation, yeah, 100%.
I can dig it. As long as Danny Elfman does the soundtrack.
The only thing that takes away from this is his belt isn't white.
Yeah,
That
you know,
would have
still
been a
give it
nice
to the
little
guy.
inside
Shout
gag.
out
Yeah,
Dan Ballard.
Yeah, Dan Ballard 777 at Dan Ballard 777. I'm just your average Dan Ballard that makes stop motion monster and puppet is all. So definitely follow that guy if that's your thing. Looked pretty interesting. He just joined Twitter, so give the guy a warm welcome here. I'll bookmark that to follow later. There we go. I can't follow it through this browser. But yeah, I like it. I mean, there we go. He did. He just first and foremost, I was the first one he thought of, even before Ken Meyer, but he just didn't have me. We love you, Don.
I like how it's always like you then me, and then like Dynamite or whoever else he tags in there.
You know,
like
actual,
it's always in that sequence.
Actual important people, you know. All right. Well, I guess without further ado, we will go ahead and get into the introduction to this, because I think this will be one of the longer episodes of this segment, at least, just to get past the formalities of the book, because there are an ass of creators on this series. I think ass is the appropriate word.
I know.
But if we do have time afterwards, I'd like to talk to you about Doomsday Clock. I've been reading that today, and it's pretty good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I've been curious about it. I've been hearing some.
It's written very similarly
conflicting
to
stuff.
We'll save this till the end. Let's not get off.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So
yeah, we're so good at that.
Yeah. So the first thing you'll notice on the cover here is that there are 5 names in big bold lettering down at the bottom. You got Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Mark Waid, and Keith Giffen. The first 4 of those are all writers on this series. In order to keep the schedule, they employed 4 writers. art breakdowns were done by Keith Giffen. You've got pencils by Eddie Barrows, Chris Batista, no relation to Batista. Um, Joe Bennett, Ken Lashy, Sean Mole, Todd Nowak. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Inks by Marlo Alquizia, Drax Hall, no relation to Drax. Uh, Jack Jadson, Roy Jose, Tom Nguyen, Jimmy Palmietti. There's a name you don't see every day. Rob Stull. Colors by David Barron and Alex Sinclair. Letters by Phil Balsman, Pat Brosso, Jared K. Felcher, Travis Lanham, Rob Lee, Nick J. Napolitano, and original covers by J.G. Jones. Sure, Politano, sure. Original covers by J.G. Jones with Alex Sinclair. And, then you have the breakdown of publishers and presidents and all that shit, senior art directors, but fuck those guys.
Shit nobody cares about.
But yeah, that's the first thing that really kind of set this apart for me, is because this is one of those few series that instead of giving a title to a sole creative team, they split the title up between basically the all-stars of their writers. I mean, there are no slouchers on this bottom row of lines. Like, Keith Giffen being the art director means that he's the one that dictated what you were drawing to look like and what scenes went where and all of that shit. Probably did the breakdowns for the actual paneling. Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, and Mark Waid, no matter what you think of any of them, they are all powerhouses in the writer slot. All of their names bring massive money.
And I always think of Rucka Ali.
Yeah.
Every single time. He's brought up.
Well, he was the best YouTube fighter.
17.
Wait, wasn't Rucka Ali one of the YouTube boxers at the first Logan Paul KSI event? Wasn't he fighting Scarce?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. All I know is his songs make me laugh.
Okay.
That's about all I know.
All right. Well, the next thing that is very important with the series is something that Ayrton neglected to read his first time through this book. There's your.
We don't need to talk about that.
Your credit pages. Oh no, we do. We do need to talk about it. As any of you have listened to this show more than once, you have a distinct possibility that you've heard me or him reflect on the idea of a previously in page in comic books and our, the fact that we like those being there because every comic is someone's first comic. Supposedly.
We did.
So Ayrton starts reading this book, and
it was wordy. I was like, I'll come back to it. How complicated can it be? That complicated.
Yeah, okay. Ayrton starts this book and sees previously ... and he's like, fuck it, I just won't read it, and skips on through until he realizes I have no idea what's happening at all. So,
like I said, it was wordy. I was like,
To set the stage for the 52-week series that we are about to embark on. Maxwell Lord, the Black King of the government agency known as Checkmate, had been secretly gathering sensitive information on the world's superheroes with the help of Brother Eye, a machine originally built by Batman, but now taken over by Lord for sinister purposes. Using his mental powers, Lord was able to take control of the mind of the world's most powerful hero, Superman, and used the Man of Steel to beat up Batman and attack Wonder Woman. The amazing Amazon eventually bound Lord to her lasso of truth, forcing him to tell her how to stop the rampaging Superman from potentially causing countless deaths and massive destruction. Lord replied with the only solution available: kill me. Seeing no other choice, Wonder Woman snapped Lord's neck, freeing Superman. and neither the Man of Steel nor the Dark Knight could condone Wonder Woman's actions, believing that there could have been another way to stop Lord. Soon after, a crisis of infinite proportion was rocking the DC universe to its core, and the Teen Titan known as Superboy sacrificed his life in order to save Earth. Meanwhile, another Superboy from an alternate dimension, Earth Prime, attempted to change the Earth into a simpler, less violent world, but in doing so became more violent himself. Superman and other heroes stopped the rampaging Superboy Prime by flying him through Krypton's red sun, Rao. Superboy Prime was stopped, but as a result, Superman lost all his powers. The hero ultimately retired his cape, choosing to focus on his life as reporter Clark Kent and husband to Lois Lane. Batman.
Can I just point out that I laughed when I was reading this and crisis was all capitalized.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of chuckled a little bit to myself there.
Batman, realizing that he had become too paranoid in his war on crime, decided to leave Gotham for a year to retrace his steps toward becoming Batman, taking Tim Drake Robin and Dick Grayson Nightwing along with him. Wonder Woman also took a year off from her duties to do some soul searching of her own. The crisis was over, and through all the chaos, a new Earth was born. A world without its three greatest champions, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But it is not a world without heroes. Go ahead. Oh, you?
Oh, no, I wasn't about to say anything.
I assumed you had some kind of snide crack to make about my dramatic reading there. But
no, I enjoyed it actually.
Oh, okay, good. Basically, this coalesces at the end of Infinite Crisis. The whole Superboy Prime issue. Superboy himself died during this crisis. Several other heroes are in disarray. Nobody really knows what's going on, and this book picks up legitimately one day after Infinite Crisis. They use that event to launch a new publication known as 52. Most of you are probably more familiar with the New 52 moniker, which happened after 52, which is with the launch of the Court of Owls and all that shit in Batman, Superman having a family and whatnot right before Rebirth. DC likes to relaunch like every 5 to 10 years, and this was back in, 2007, I believe, was when this book came out.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, but anyway, with that introduction, you're caught up on where this whole fiasco starts off. So, let's go ahead and just get into the meat of the story here. Week 1, Day 1. So, as the prepared one, I have notes to go through. So I guess I'll go through those notes and then we'll talk about it from day to day. How does that sound?
As I start coughing because you made me laugh.
Right.
Being unprepared. That works for me.
Okay.
I have my general impressions of the different sections and observations and that stuff. I just don't have them written down.
Okay. Well, Day 1, Ralph Dibny, the elongated man, stands in the ruins of his home holding the wishing gun from the Antonio Anselmo case back in 1995. A brief explanation of Ralph's tragedy, losing his wife during Identity Crisis storyline, is that his wife, Sue Dibny, was killed by Jean Loring, who had lost her fucking mind and shrunk down using the Adams technology and walked on her brain. It was a big fiasco. There was some shit with Dr. Light and some, mistrust between Batman and the Justice League. It was very strange, but it was very Star Wars-ish of the DC universe because it wasn't the greatest story ever told, but it was so innovative and ingenuitive as far as the everything down to the text boxes were stylized based on the characters who were speaking, which was one of the first times that you had seen this done in a DC book that was as big as it was. Not that it hadn't been done before, but it was the first time someone like DC Comics had done something like this. The color and the background and the outline and the text and everything were all personalized. It was very strange. But that basically created the Ralph Dibny that we've known ever since, which is the depressed private detective. And, there were some old cases that he had mementos lying around from, and one of them was the wishing gun.
He just has a gun from an old case just lying around his house.
Yeah.
They totally let you do that.
Right. We also check in on another private detective, Renee Montoya, formerly of Gotham City PD. Many of you may remember her name being dropped in the Dark Knight film trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but she is a lesbian cop who left the force in disgrace and started to work as a private detective. She's now an alcoholic, which is pointed out several times through the course of this book. They drive that point home, so you should really know that they really want you to believe and feel bad for her, that she's at the bottom of her barrel.
Alcoholism bad.
Yes.
Remember that, kids.
Also, her suspicion the events of Infinite Crisis were the end of the world are basically confirmed here. The last character we see on the day one shot is John Henry Irons' character, Steele, who many of you may remember from a terrible Shaquille O'Neal movie back in the 90s, is in France helping rescue operations take place.
Who was the genius that thought they should put Shaquille O'Neal in movies?
Me. Because he's fantastic. Chad Middleton, yeah, that comes up a little bit later, but yeah, she and Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, have an on-again, off-again relationship. So you're skipping ahead, man. But anyway, that's day one. In stepping into this, I have a feeling that you really didn't have a lot of back history on any of these characters. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, like I know of them, but hadn't really read much highlighting like the elongated man or anything like that. Like I know who they are.
Well,
but
it's kind of funny because the elongated man finally gets a little bit of play in DC's television show The Flash. Renee Montoya gets name dropped in a couple of Batman properties. And Steele is really the short end of the stick here because he's had one really terrible movie, and you don't really hear about him in other mediums much. I think he may have been in some of the DC cartoons or whatever, but it's few and far between.
Yeah, I feel like he was in something else besides a terrible movie.
But the Steele character is actually pretty huge in Superman lore. He was one of the characters that stepped up during the death of Superman art to kind of fill the mantle that Superman left behind. But they're setting the stage to basically bring in B, C, and even D-list characters in the story to show the impact of a world without a Batman, a Superman, or a Wonder Woman, because that's the general principle of this whole idea or show or series rather.
Yeah, which I like. Just that concept alone is really, really fascinating, at least to me.
Right. Well, I mean, they're referred to by DC literally as the Trinity. So,
yeah.
Day two, we let's see. Chad Middleton says he was in cartoons. He got his ass beat by Power Girl. That sounds about right.
Oh, okay.
Day two, you basically keep tabs on these same three characters for the first 4 days. I just want to point that out. It's day 5 where you finally meet a new character. So day 2 and 3 kind of flow by a little faster.
Yeah, which I really like the I don't know, the storytelling, like the jumbled, like it kind of keeps bouncing kind of around and like feels chaotic. Like you can feel just from reading the dialogue, like the chaos, in the world at that point in time.
Right.
It was a little weird the first couple of panels, but then once you settle into it, it's a bit easier to follow.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that, and again, we'll get back to the actual notes themselves in just a minute. But I really have to say that this is almost something impossible that these guys have pulled off. I mean, they're literally telling a story they're telling 4 to 5 different stories that are all mingled together and orchestrated in a fucking cacophony of pages, and it works. I don't think you could get 4 figure skaters to work together, much less 4 alcoholic writers, one of which is a giant man-child that throws temper tantrums.
I was kind of surprised to see his cover. It's like, oh shit.
Well, it's like I've said before. No matter what I think of you, even if I think you're an asshole, I mean that doesn't take away from your artistic accomplishments. Do I think Mark Waid needs to?
I was surprised he was able to play nice with others well enough to actually do this project.
Well,
without threatening to sue somebody.
No, we don't know that didn't happen, but
okay, fair.
Day 2, we find out that Dibney is still sorting through the wreckage of his home and basically his life. And he's looking at several photographs that were destroyed, one of which appears to be on his wedding day, or of his wife on their wedding day. I think that is him in his trademark purple suit. It's kind of you kind of get the idea that Ralph is depressed and is going through some shit with the the amount of dialogue that they go through. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but essentially it all points to him being depressed and not really knowing what the hell's going on, and his sense of loss and whatnot. And that all culminates by the end of the book. Renee Montoya again is at another bar, or the same bar, or she's drinking again. She's not at home. She's not accomplishing anything. She's smoking and drinking at a bar, and even the bartender's starting to say, "Hey, slow down. Why don't you?" Steele is still doing what he does, and rescuing children, working with the Red Cross, trying to keep shit afloat. And in many there's many mentions of all of the heroes who are unaccounted for at this point. Like everybody's trying to figure out where people like Green Arrow or Batgirl or several other characters that are just missing, and Superboy is the only known casualty at this time, but it just you can feel the weight of this event on everybody's demeanor here. And this is a 3-panel day. Same with day 3, but where were you once you got here? This is about where I kind of got it. The first time I read this is where I got adjusted to what was going on, only to have my expectations subverted by day 5.
Almost like a Rian Johnson film, but done well.
Yeah. But where were you with these characters and this idea at this point? Like, were you waiting for it to pick up? Were you thinking that it was kind of a little dull, or how did you?
No, at this point, I was pretty drawn in with, like I said, the different way of telling the story, the kind of like jumbled, chaotic stuff, and like, even though I had skipped that intro, like, you can still kind of figure out, you could kind of piece together, not the specifics of what happened, but you could piece together, that there's some sort of like crazy worldwide shit that happened and they're trying to clean up and, and whatnot. So yeah, I was pretty hooked in by this point, by day 4, I guess, if we want to look at the actual chronological time frame of the storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah, right about day 4, I was like, I dig this. Let's keep going. And actually, I had to double check in our messages and be like, wait, we're just doing the first issue, right? Just the first issue.
Oh yeah,
because I wanted to keep reading, but I was like, well, if I do that, I'm just going to reread more issues later anyways to refresh my memory, so I'll just stop. But
well, if you read ahead, it's easier to go back and actually make notes on the second time through. I have to read every book we read on this show 3 times.
Fair enough.
For the show. Are you not dedicated to Sparkle Motion? Chad Middleton. Superboy in this chronology is Connor Kent, the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor mixed his and Superman's DNA together and made Superboy. I don't know if it was a child support scheme or what.
Probably would be my guess.
But day 3, we only really get a look at Ralph Dibny and Renee Montoya. Dibny confirms that most of he and his dead wife's belongings were lost to the destruction because Opal City basically looks like a tornado ran through it, and as you saw in day 1, his entire house just has a giant crater in the middle of it. But some case items were still intact, and again, as a reference to the wishing gun from day 1 that Ralph is shown holding again. So it's at this point that if you know anything about the elongated man and that history, you're actually starting to worry about Ralph Dibny. Almost like you would an actual human being friend or whatever, but you're looking at Ralph Dibny and you're wondering where this guy's head's at, right?
Yeah.
And then you have that same feeling for Renee Montoya when you see her on day 3 again drunk, being propositioned by another drunk at a bar. And this is the second or third time we get a reference to the number 52 on panel, as you can see on the left-hand page there at the bottom where the bar she's at is 52 pickup. 52 is a number that, like Ethan Van Sciver is quoted as saying, they've almost copywritten that number. 52 weeks in a year, and eventually, like you'll see that the number 52 is very, very important to the story in multiple situations.
I'm surprised we don't have to mail DC a quarter every time we say it.
Shut up! Don't give them ideas. But during the Renee portion of day 3, there are several references to a memorial, and even in the Dibny portion, there's several references to a memorial for the fallen heroes. And Renee says she's not going. She's been to enough funerals lately. But so far, again, the only confirmed casualty is Superboy Connor Kent. They've shut down Superboy Prime, and at this point, I think he was in the Source Wall, but I'm not sure. But all of that's what ended up leading to Superman being depowered and having to take his sabbatical, so to speak.
Right.
Now, day 4 is our last quote-unquote short day in this book. The rest of the notes are quite long. I've got just as many notes on the last 3 days as I do the first 4 days. So, in fact, more. I think I've got more notes for day 5 than I do the rest of the week. But Steele kind of gives a rundown on everything that's happened in the last few days, expressing that the good guys did, in fact, win, quote unquote, the Infinite Crisis, but we're pretty much left in the same boat as the civilian that he's talking to, the fireman. And the guy just asked Steele, like, when do things go back to normal? So since the good guys won and we're safe again, like, when does life go back to normal? And that's a very weighty panel. Like it's a very
Yeah.
small part of this book. It's almost insignificant, but it's quite possibly the most important panel in this series. Is that nothing about the series represents the normality from the day to day of the normal DC universe, where Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman exist to solve all the small stuff, so to speak, for these people. Like, Steele's having to run around and work double time for something Superman could have accomplished in an hour, right? Hello.
And
Uh,
sorry, my dog is being annoying.
oh, okay.
I swear, every time I was playing with her for like 20 minutes, then she goes and lays down, start the show, and then she wants to be annoying again.
It is some playtime now. Well, before we get into to day 5, this kind of concludes the segment on those 3 characters. I mean, they come back up, but it kind of, it's our introduction almost. Those first 4 days in this book, while they were very short and very fast passing, that was your introduction. The meat of the story kind of kicks off in day 5, right? I think he's dead. He's dead, Joe.
All right, I'm alive. There should be no more distractions.
Okay. But yeah, where were you at by the end of day 4? You said this is where you were pretty much hooked into the story, and
Yeah,
the meat of the story
this,
pretty much comes in at day 5, right?
yeah, I was hooked at this point. It was, like I said, super fascinating concept, and I liked the highlighting of like the C and D list characters.
Right. That's
like,
what initially
seeing them deal.
Go ahead.
Seeing them deal with like the aftermath of a big crisis. Since we're talking about DC, we're used to seeing, like, after something big happens, like how Superman or the Flash or whoever, like, handle something like this. But I liked them showing, like, how these, not lesser, if you will, but
Well, no, that's
not
the
as
point.
highly billed.
They are in the sense of superhero status. These are the. I mean, look at it. You got a depressed guy who's waving a gun around like he's about to blow his own brains out. You've got a disgraced police officer who's drinking herself to death, and you've got Steele who's working tirelessly to try and fill the role, like the shoes of Superman, which Superman would have accomplished everything Steele's done in 3 days, 4 days, over the course of an hour.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting that the 3, like, seemingly vastly different reactions, but also kind of the same reaction at the same time.
Well, they're all coping in their own way. Ralph's trying to cling to the past, Renee's trying to forget the present, and Steele's looking forward to the future.
Yeah, and it was, super, super fascinating.
But day 5, very much the pop off point of the story, very much where the meat of the story is just located. You're introduced to Booster Gold. Now, for those of you that might not know, Booster Gold is a character introduced in, I believe, the 80s, maybe late 70s. Was Ted Cord Blue Beetle's best friend for a while. Had a run with the Time, not Time Bandits. He's always been tied to time travel. He's from the 25th century. Not quite Legion of Superheroes era, but 500 years in the future of the current DC universe. He goes back to the 20th century with basically a historical library in Skeets, his sidekick.
Yeah,
So,
Wikipedia, robotic Wikipedia.
Yeah, but he also has knowledge of crimes that take place, supervillain sightings, all that shit. He's got historical data. Now, let's see what I've written down here. 25th century, traveled back with a suit, allowing him the power of flight, enhanced strength and agility, and certain other, gizmos and gadgets that he uses over the run of his comic career. Skeets is a library of information that informs Booster of crimes that have occurred in the 20th century, allowing him to show up and stop them. How does this not disrupt Booster stopping a jewel theft? Or how does this not disrupt the timeline before making this information invalid? Comics.
So they never give like an explanation why he can change that without altering the timeline.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I mean,
because I was curious about that.
Yeah. Now,
because I mean that's basically what the Flashpoint story is, right? Like, don't fuck with the timeline.
Yeah. If you go back and save your mom, then Batman's gonna die.
Yeah.
Booster Gold, no, he's not like Superman strong. He's just, that's why I say enhanced, not really super. It's not superhuman strength like Shazam or a Superman or an Incredible Hulk. I'd put him up there with like, I don't know, Mr. Terrific.
Okay.
Solomon Grundy, maybe Aquaman strong. Aquaman's pretty fucking strong.
So is he enhanced, or is it the suit enhances him?
It's the suit that gives him his enhancement. Yeah. He's a janitor.
Okay, so maybe
in his
more
time,
like the Atom or something like that.
Yeah, in his time, he's a janitor, and he steals the suit from a superhero museum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is another one of the characters, like, I know the name, like, I know he exists, but know absolutely nothing about.
Well, let's see. We enter with Booster stopping a jewel thief by the name of Mammoth. We also see that he has multiple culprit sponsors like Lit Beer, Soda Cola, and Banana Co., which I thought was an interesting one. But
yeah,
from this introduction, I get the feeling that we're really not supposed to like or trust Booster.
Yeah, he kind of comes across as a twat.
Yeah. The big point in that is that he does this quick facial expression change when Skeets reminds him that Superboy is dead and he should stop smiling about, being alive or whatever. I don't know. I don't really get the reference.
People died, you asshole. Don't look so happy.
Yeah. But we then, again, we flash back around to our three main characters that we've already seen in this issue after this introduction with Booster Gold. The first person we check in with is Ralph, who is seemingly at the end of his rope with his depression and the loss of his wife, his home, his friends, his life, essentially. And he looks like he's ready to commit suicide.
That cell phone.
Oh, yeah. I don't have that page up because I don't want to hit the multiple page thing.
Fair enough.
But, he's ready to, and it also shows him putting a gun in his mouth, so I don't want
to. Yeah, that's fair.
But he puts a wishing gun in his mouth.
Not for kids, YouTube.
Yeah. And seems ready to commit suicide. until he gets a voicemail that says his wife's grave has been marked with a message. Now, it seems interesting to me after we see this message that the guy doesn't just call it graffiti or vandalism, but it legitimately said that there's a message on your wife's grave, even though the message is coming from the funeral home that handled her arrangements. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you
I
haven't
did
read.
not.
You haven't read further. Let me find the exact page here. I want you to look back on that. I just want you to read over that and see if it makes sense to you. It's page 15. But the exact quote
15?
is Mr. Dibney, this is Elysium Mortuary. We're the ones who handled your wife's funeral arrangements. Sir, we don't know how to tell you this, but the cemetery called and they say they found a message on Mrs. Dibney's tombstone. Now, I know you haven't read a lot in advance of this, but what they eventually find on her tombstone, spoiler alert, is an upside down symbol for the House of L, the Superman logo. The the pentagon diamond shape with the pentagon? No,
Yeah.
it's a septagon. A hexagon. There's six
Yeah,
sides.
what do you call that shape? Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's a six-sided trapezoid.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's the symbol for the House of L, but most people are commonly referred to it as the Superman symbol. You find out later, and again, this is a spoiler, and we'll go over it when we actually cover that issue. But in the Kryptonian language, the symbol for the House of L in standard form, which is the S right reading, is and the point at the bottom, hope. But if you turn it upside down, the symbol takes on an entirely different meaning, and it means resurrection. So that's a little spoiler for a future episode, like 2 or 3 weeks.
All right, then. Yeah.
But this stops Ralph from pulling the trigger with the wishing gun. Now, I have a couple of theories as to why he's using the wishing gun. One of which is that he's attempted this before, and normal bullets don't kill him because of his elastic powers.
Uh-huh.
And that he can wish himself to die with the wishing gun. But that's just me.
Yeah, see, so I didn't catch, I didn't know that it was the wishing gun. I was sitting there going like, won't his face just stretch if he tries to shoot himself? So
yeah, that's and that's one thing that I wanted
different context.
Well, that's one thing that I wanted to point out with just the tremendous amount of talent on this book from all of the writers and all of the artists and everything from that nature, and Keith Giffen on the general breakdowns. All of these people are comic fans. Like, these aren't people that were writing comics in the 50s to make ends meet. These are people that grew up reading comics and went into the medium as a passion. So all of these people have near encyclopedic knowledge on at least a couple of characters.
Yeah.
And, this is the story that they crafted when I'm fairly certain DC editorial said, okay, what happens in the DC universe if the Trinity's gone? Go. I doubt very seriously any of these people were handed a list of characters and said, okay, make a story with this. I'm pretty sure they just had an editorial meeting and said, okay, the Trinity's gone. What do you do? Go. And the fact that they pulled, these 4 characters and eventually a 5th character and 6th character that we'll see in this issue, because I think it's 6. that we actually get a deep dive into. Because we've seen Renee Montoya, Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, Steele, John Henry Iron, Michael John Carter, Booster Gold so far. That's 4. Yeah, so it's 6 altogether that we're introduced to. But after Ralph decides not to kill himself, we cut back to Steele, who's back in Metropolis on day 5 with his niece Natasha. And he's scolding her for, instead of going with him to clear more rubble and help more people in the crisis or whatever, she's going to a tryout for the Teen Titans. The exchange ends basically when he pulls her remote out and disengages her armor right in the middle of flight and has her land on top of a building in a pile of steel. And explains to her, like,
what's with her weird head tail thing?
We don't talk about that.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That's let's see, that's some that's where she keeps her hair, man. Calm down. You don't see that big braid of hair going down her back?
The suit. Is that supposed to be hair going down her back?
That's hair going down her
when
back.
The suit falls off.
It curls at her fucking butt. It looks like it. Is that hair? No.
It doesn't look like hair to me.
I thought it was. It's not. It's not hair. I don't know. She's got a head tail. We don't talk about it. I'll pull that page up. I'll show the people the head tail.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta show the head tail.
Look, you didn't want to look at the fish penis, but now you want to see the head tail? That's sexist.
Well, yeah. It might be. And I'm okay with that.
But anyway, he disengages the armor and basically gives her the "my house, my rules" speech. But it's more along the lines of, you didn't earn this armor, and you can start earning it by building it, and you can start on that when you get home. And I don't know, it's different. Can I post the pages on the Discord? DM me, Chad, if there's something specific you want to see. I don't want to put them up on the YouTube and get a copyright strike or whatever. But if there's something you're interested in seeing, let me know and I'll send it to you. Just DM me what you're looking for. Then you can start work building her own suit when she gets back home, and then kind of flies off and leaves her. I think it's a little harsh. Like, you don't really get, and this is one of the few parts of the story that didn't make as much sense to me. Like this, it was a very rushed kind of altercation between the two of them, and to me, Steele comes off as pretty harsh. Like, I have a feeling the Teen Titans are looking for new members to go help people. Like,
yeah, it also came across a little bit like, he's had a long couple days.
Yeah,
he's probably kind of tired, kind of cranky, a little stressed, and that's how it, like, I kind of read it. He just like overworked and just kind of like snapped at her because, like, he was
that
like needs help.
That makes sense. But after this exchange, we're introduced to Black Adam. Now, for those that don't know, Shazam recently had a movie, which Shazam is Captain Marvel. In DC Comics, it's a long story, but I'll try and go through it.
I think we've touched on it before.
Back in the day, a company named Fawcett Comics created a character named Captain Marvel. DC Comics purchased Fawcett Comics and continued the publication of Captain Marvel. However, Marvel Comics got their panties in a wad about the use of the Marvel subtitle with a character that wasn't under the Marvel header, so they created their own Captain Marvel and entered a copyright dispute. This taking place led DC to start titling the book Shazam, which was the word of power shouted by Captain Marvel to summon his superpowered form. Otherwise, he was, young child Billy Batson. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a quick version.
Okay. Well, Black Adam is his counterpart. I think he also says the word Shazam, but for different gods. It's a little convoluted, but Black Adam is much older than Shazam and has turned to the dark side and is trying to turn over a bit of a new leaf in this title. He has become the, I guess, de facto ruler and ambassador for a country in the DC universe named Kahndaq, which, I believe is a low budget Iraq. But he's delivering a, well,
How can you have a lower budget Iraq?
shh, we don't want to talk about that. He's basically proclaiming that his policy of non-intervention with the rest of the world has been a folly. He vows to spread his message of peace by force, essentially, throughout the rest of the world as a diplomatic ambassador for Kahndaq. His speech is interrupted, however, as you can see on the right-hand side, by a suicide bomber, or a would-be suicide bomber. YouTube isn't really going to like the number of times that I've said the S word during this show.
A Hillary Clinton bomber?
That works. I'm good with that.
Okay.
A 2-shot to the back of the head bomber.
Yeah.
But Black Adam.
Epstein bomber.
Ooh, yeah.
Because he wasn't successful, so he didn't do it.
That's right.
Therefore, he's an Epstein bomber.
Well, and then Black Adam pulls off one of the most baller moves I've ever seen on the pages of a comic book, right? He rips the bomb from the dude's chest and throws it into the air, and then proceeds to just nonchalantly rip the guy's arm off and say, "You have 3 more chances to tell me who sent you."
If you really want to impact it, you could say 4. Right, rip his dick off too. But...
well, this is a kid's comic book, Ayrton.
Is it?
Is
it though?
This had the rating of T for teen on it. All right. Matt Christie appreciated.
And the show is not for children. YouTube.
It is not. It is not. If you're under the age of 16 or 18 in some states, please sign off now, and go back to watching your anime with huge titties or something.
Yeah. Basically.
Now this ends day 5, which again is the longest day in this book. And definitely the most action-packed. So, what did you think of this? We got 2 new characters in this day. So, where were you at once the
double?
Yeah, where were you at once the flow of Ralph Dibny, Renee Montoya Steele broke? Because we didn't even check in on Renee Montoya in the day 5. Like, we just assumed she's still drinking at the bar.
Yeah. Which is probably a fair assumption. So I can definitely feel the pace picking up. Kind of foresee like, okay, they're not going to keep it all kind of jumbled and chaotic super long. They're going to be picking this up and kind of hone into a basic overarching story. Definitely thought Booster Gold was a twat. I was like, okay, this guy's kind of annoying. I don't think I like him. But I was still pretty hooked though.
Yeah, and I think that's the entire point of Booster Gold's character. Like, you're not supposed to like him,
Yeah.
but what are you gonna do when the big three are gone? Like, you got what you got.
Right.
So,
And it makes sense in context of what's going on in the DC universe at this time. And so you're kind of like, okay, he's an asshole. It would probably be fun to watch Batman fuck him up, but we'll deal with it for now.
Einbrecht with the spoiler in the chat. I genuinely dislike female question. Always will. I have no idea who he's talking about. That will definitely be revealed at a later point in this book, but I don't want to necessarily spoil it for you all. But to be fair, nobody can ever replace Vic Sage. And also a little bit of trivia, considering nobody knows who. There are some Green Lanterns in this book, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But they're not a main focus because, let's be honest, Green Lanterns are an intergalactic force. They have an entire sector of space to protect, not just planet Earth.
Yeah. Which is still, slightly unfair that Earth gets, what, are they on 3 or 4 at this point, Green Lanterns in the...
Well, at any
DC
given
universe.
time, I don't think there are ever more than 3 Earth-based, like, it's Earth-sectored Green Lanterns.
Okay.
But even then, they're still Earth sector, which sectors are humongous. They're like Sector 2814 is the Milky Way galaxy. Supposedly. They just call it Earth sector because that's where the sentient life is. But, if anything pops off on Mars, the Green Lantern Corps will be there. But we're getting a little off topic. No, Green Lanterns are not a main focal point in this. However, they do make appearances, so we will see them sporadically through. But I think you actually see Guy Gardner and John Jones in this book. I'm not sure about Hal Jordan.
John Stewart.
Yes, did I say John Jones?
Yeah.
That's Martian Manhunter, which I wasn't wrong. I think you do see Martian Manhunter here as well.
I'm pretty sure he shows up too. I think Hal Jordan's in there as well.
Okay.
At the back.
But day 5 inevitably leads into day 6. So on day 6, we check in with, it's a new character, but I don't want to call him a main character just yet.
Okay.
Dr. Savannah. Now, for those of you who might not know who this guy is, which we'll be saying this a lot over the course of this series, because, again, when you take away the big 3, what do you got left?
Yeah.
So Dr. Savannah is typically portrayed as the villain of Captain Marvel or Shazam. And he's shown kind of commenting on Black Adam's proclamation. And he states that, Black Adam's magic won't change the world. Only science changes the world. And then his lab is broken into and he's seemingly kidnapped by something that's not quite human.
With like some weird scaly arm or something.
Yeah, scaly arm and furry torso. It's weird. It must be V from Romania.
That would make sense.
No.
Okay.
Now, you cut back in and you start to catch glimpses of, not lesser heroes, so to speak, but, again, not big.
A cacophony of heroes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Memorial Day. Everybody's kind of getting together to, reminisce at the people that were lost and get together and kind of get a head count of who's still around. You see people like Jay Garrick. You see Barry Allen, who's lost his speed. You got Power Girl there. You can tell by the ginormous bust and lack of pants. You got Speedy, Wildcat. You got Ray, Green Arrow, Black Canary. I believe Hawkman. That is Hal Jordan there, kind of to the side. Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, you got
Jessica Cruz.
a lot of
Jessica Cruz, which was
lot
Power
of characters
Ray.
I don't recognize too.
Yeah, I'm just responding to the chat real quick. The reason for John, Hal, Kyle, and Guy all being Earth Green Lanterns is from different points in history. They eventually converge. Not only that, but when a lantern dies, their ring immediately seeks out a successor, and usually those successors are deputized when the originals come back, and they're brought into the Corps by the Guardians because of their service, blah, 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 blah. Guy Gardner was a warrior and, had a yellow ring for a while, even though he was a good guy. Before the Sinestro Corps.
Alan Scott was made
magical,
an honorary Green Lantern,
even though his powers don't come from Oa, and his lantern is magic powered based, and he's Jade's father, who's Ballin' Kyle Rayner.
Comics are weird.
I have a Green Lantern tattoo. Don't at me about Green Lantern lore. I'm kidding, by the way. At me all you want to. I love the engagement. Universal threat because Superman, etc. They're more closely watched by Oa. Yeah. You guys got it. Thanks, Einbrecht, for stepping in on that one. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't genuinely dislike the female question, but I concur on the female thing. As far as comics go, I've learned so much from being involved with the Gospel of Comics, and a lot of things never would have been exposed to. Thought Hal turned mad with power. Yeah, that was the Parallax saga. Hal Jordan was infected. Well, it was retconned that he was infected by the entity of fear, which is where the name Parallax comes from. But he just initially called himself Parallax and murdered all the other lanterns, and the last Lantern Corps ring was given to Kyle Rayner. Then they trapped the Parallax entity back in the Earth battery or whatever, or they explained that the Parallax entity was trapped in the battery, which is what gave Green Lanterns a weakness to yellow, and the weakness to yellow was overcome after Parallax was purged from the battery. And then they did
they no longer had the yellow impurity in the rings.
Right. But then there was the multiple cores for every spectrum of the emotion. It's almost
we should probably set this aside. We could probably do like an extended episode of like just the history of Green Lantern.
Put it on the list.
All right, I'm on it.
A lot of weird shit happened with Hal. He was a Spectre for a while, for God's sake. Yeah. He housed the spirit of vengeance and started fucking up a lot of people. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. I wish he would have had a ring then, too, though. Because the Spectre in a Green Lantern suit, that's some fan art that I love. Anyway. Day 6, we cut back to the memorial of those fallen in the crisis. I have a note here. It must be a common occurrence with the number of cataclysmic events in DC's timeline, but I digress. We are met where we meet several characters, including but not limited to, I already kind of went through these, but Green Arrow, Black Canary, the Ray, Speedy, which is the sidekick of Green Arrow, who eventually becomes...
Is he still Speedy at this point?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because, he had a heroin addiction at one point. But I think it is still Speedy. I don't know that timeline had happened yet. Jay Garrick, the First Flash, Martian Manhunter, Wildcat, and many, many others. Booster is given a 1-minute warning from Skeet about the arrival of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman to this memorial. So he prepares to kind of give them a shout out or an announcement, but that minute passes without them arriving. This causes Skeet to short circuit and Booster to basically have a mild hysterical fit, in which he has to be restrained by other heroes. But we see that during his freakout, he hits reporter Clark Kent in the nose and making his nose bleed, while Clark tells him that they're not coming. So I gotta pull that up. That's something that we need to talk about. Let's see here. Yeah. I'll pull up the first page of day 7 as well, and we'll complete it out here. But the fact that you see Clark Kent nose bleeding because of Booster Gold, again, it's one of those panels in this book that just speaks volumes. You know, you don't see Superman's nose bleed unless something like Doomsday is happening, right? Or other Kryptonians have been discovered, which again happens every other fucking week.
Yeah, it's not like it's an uncommon occurrence,
but
not a regular occurrence.
You know, Booster Gold is flailing about and breaks Clark Kent's nose, or make Clark Kent's nose bleed, and the fact that Clark Kent's sitting there telling you, like, look, I just know that they're not coming. I'm sorry. So the guy that has absolute knowledge of the future is wrong, and the strongest man in the world has a nosebleed. That's where we are at this point.
Yeah, which is pretty, again, for how much of an ass he is, it's still pretty impactful, like how much history not going how it's supposed to just sends him into a spiral of panic.
Well, well, it should, because his entire existence depends on Skeet's being right.
Yeah.
And you'll see that as we kind of go through this. I do encourage that you do read ahead if you're interested by this, because reading over it again, you'll come across things you want to make note of, and that'll kind of give us more talking points. But I digress.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of thinking. Sorry, another sidebar. Since you have already read it, you have the thing. I think I'm going to read it like it would have been, just once a week. I might read it once and then read it again and make notes. But I'm going to wait till the week, each week to read each one.
Yeah, like I said, I
think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, like I want to know what part. I want to know what parts surprise you. Like, I've already felt all the impacts and all the punches and everything, so I can make notes of what I thought was impactful and on a second or third look through. But I really want to know, like, what hits you as you read through this.
Yeah, definitely watching him just freak out, like he goes, like, starts going at Jimmy Olsen, like, you have to take the picture. You have to take the picture.
Yeah.
And, Rory, what, according to Skeet, like 5 minutes past when it was supposed to happen, according to him.
Right.
And, like, yeah, watching basically his entire existence just, like, crumble away in his brain was, you feel a little bad for the guy.
Usually off of Comixology, Chad Middleton, the digital copies I'll either find scans for or whatever if I own the books, but everything that we review is something that we either already own or have downloaded on Comixology. So, not a sponsor of the show, although they could be.
They could be. Comixology.
Yeah. But day 7, and this is the weirdest, I think, sequence in the book. But there's a mysterious faceless figure, which obviously I know is the question Vic Sage, um, who is peeling the bat symbol off of the bat signal and spray painting a backwards question mark, which he then shines over Renee Montoya's apartment window. And she has no idea why it's being done, but he's standing there saying, I can see you, and are you ready? No, 52 you have to buy. I just pay the membership and then buy the books if it's something that me and Ayrton both need to read and neither one of us own, or if it's something that, he needs to read and I own. my collection is much larger than his.
Yeah.
I collect omnibus. If a series doesn't have an omnibus, I don't buy it. I'm not interested in hunting down back issues to get the full story. I understand that mentality, but that's kind of like I'm all for buying something in 2 formats. Like I like the trade collections because they're easier to manage and they're easier to travel with. But
and easier to stack on a shelf.
I don't like omnibus formats because I hate bent spines. God damn it, I hate when a spine starts to crease.
Yeah, that is a little annoying.
So, I mean, your standard 6 to 12 issue trade, like these are kind of big trades. Like to hold one of these in your hands, it's basically 2 trades bound together. Because I think the first volume's 13 issues. I'm not sure. But let's see, 52 divided by 4.
Let's find out.
2 divided by 4 is 1. 3, yeah. So 13 issues apiece. Huh.
All right.
I guess that's why the months aren't exactly 4 weeks. They're all multiple days. So. But yeah, these are fairly large trades, so these are fairly worn in as much as I've read them. But yeah, no, I feel you there, and that's something that we talked about with the new X-Men saga, Einbracht, is that if a trade doesn't contain the complete story, then did they really print it correctly? Because I think that if a trade contains, if there's a story with 2 titles involved, like 2 titles are crossing over for 6 issues apiece, then there should be 2 trades with both titles cross-seamed as the chronologically correct story, as opposed to I'm going to read 2 issues in this trade, go read an issue in this trade, go read an issue here, go back and read 2 issues. You feel me?
Yeah. Which I think those trades are due to come out soon. So we'll have to look at that and see how they actually print the House and Powers of X, because I'm curious if they.
Do I really have to spend money on that to be disappointed? Is that something I have to do?
No, we'll just. I'm sure we'll be able to find it online how they print it and stuff. We don't have to spend.
Yeah, good luck with that. They don't tell you that. I mean, you can look on Amazon and see what titles are collected. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, or look at them in the store when they're released.
I think someone forgot that my local comic store stopped selling comics.
Okay, well, I can look at them in the store and let you know.
I have to wait on shipping.
We can bitch about it.
My local comic store is online now. But anyway, we have the question Vic Sage shining a light on Renee Montoya. Renee Montoya, who has just gotten home to her apartment in what seems like 7 days of being out at the bar drinking. I wonder did she just go outside and pass out until the bar opened again? That's some real hood shit,
you would
right?
assume.
But,
right?
Renee Montoya's girlfriend Daria has left a note saying that she left likely due to Renee's alcoholism and Renee not quite understanding the signal was intentionally illuminating her window. So, like I said, we get an introduction to Vic Sage the Question, but he is as enigmatic as ever. And that's the end of week 1. First off, I want to pose to the chat while they have a chance to catch up. What do you guys think of this? Like, is this something you guys would be interested in kind of following along with? I mean, it sounds like a couple of you are already familiar with the storyline, or at least the DC lore that you might. But would you guys be interested in following along with this week to week, or should we just nip it in the bud now and just read it and talk about it at length? I like the week to week format because it kind of gives us an opportunity to break down what's happening.
Yeah, kind of dive deeper into the story.
Yeah, because
I like the deeper dive, and with it being 52 weeks, it's easy. It's nice. We can, gives us something to look forward to each week.
Yeah. And, we're at an hour and a half now. I don't know that every issue will take that. But, okay. All right. Well, we got 2 for it.
All right, cool.
So, and what I'll do is I'll start a playlist after next week. And I'll just link every episode back to back so that it can kind of be a playlist. And maybe one day when Ayrton McCartney gets an actual laptop, I'll set him to task in cutting out some of the banter back and forth, and we'll cut these down to like chunks that can be digested a little easier.
When I get a laptop that works.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping.
Technically, there is one in my possession. It just, I don't remember the last time I actually turned it on, and when I did do that, however long ago that was, it went very, very slowly.
Yeah, I'm hoping sometime in the 2030s you'll come into possession of a desktop computer or something that actually works. So
that's possible. I mean, I wouldn't hold your breath though. I did just buy a 50-year-old car because mine broke. Mine from 2006 broke, so I went the other way and bought an older car. So we'll see.
Just send me some cigars and I'll do all the work like always.
Fair enough.
Oh, speaking of which, sometime probably next Sunday, we will be doing a review of Flying Fortress.
All right.
Do you have yours already?
What was that?
Do you have yours already?
I don't. I thought I backed that one. I'm gonna have to go recheck because I know I had
you
like
son
a
list. Of a bitch.
Well, because we had those ones that we were both interested in. I know I missed, there were a couple that I missed because they just slipped my mind, but I was so positive that I backed that one because it seemed so interesting. So I need to go dig back through my.
I was one of the.
Yes, World War III will have ended by the time I get a legitimate computer.
We've got 10-15 minutes left. I need you to go. Can you check now? Like, have you been getting backer updates?
Oh, let me see.
This man doesn't check his email either.
So. Not much. Hold on. See the
annoying
thing is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, see, the annoying thing is so the Gmail app updated. Now there's 3 different sections that emails get divided out by and sent to.
This motherfucker is talking about an update that happened 2 years ago.
It just started doing this on my app like a couple weeks ago.
This son of a bitch is
Before
talking
it
about
was
an
all
update that
just
happened
in a
2
li-
years ago.
It was all just in a line.
Oh my god.
I'm really bad at I haven't updated my phone in like 3 years, like the
Oh no shit.
iOS. When, whenever I bought the phone, that was the last time. That's whatever operating system I have on there.
Okay.
Hold on.
Not only
I'm
do I
looking.
believe you. Jesus.
Apparently, according to this, I have a new comment on one of my music YouTube videos that I from a couple weeks ago that I haven't seen.
Oh. Let's see.
Let's see. Cyber fraud. Keep going while I look through this.
Oh, okay. I'll vamp while you dig through your emails. Flying Fortress. Just search for Flying Fortress, man. For fuck's sake, come on.
I was searching. I searched Indiegogo. Maybe it would be easier to search flying.
Oh man, files are.
Can you search by something like that? I thought you have to search by like
yes
where
yes.
it's coming from.
No, you can search by whatever would be in the. Yeah. There we go.
My bad.
It's all good. Nope, don't want to speak written. There you go. Chad Middleton, check your DMs. I sent that image over to you. It's the panel with the gun where it references back to an actual comic book case for Ralph Dibny. I blew it up a little bit in Comixology so you could read it. But that shows the gun, and that's reading back through it, I can kind of catch some of these things, like in the part with Kondak, they renamed the Themyscira house to the Kondak Ambassadors or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm on 3 bourbon now, and it's really, really good bourbon. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
So apparently I suck and I didn't back that one, but I could have sworn I did.
Well, I guess I'll be reviewing the fucking book.
I could have. I swear to God, I backed that one though, because that one was like one of the top ones I was excited for. What the fuck?
Well, you'll have a second chance. How's it going, Captain Weeb? Good to see you, buddy. Let's see. I'm Bragg. Was it you that was interested in MHW?
Church is trying to explain the 2-year-old Gmail app to me, how it works.
Yeah.
That's how we're doing.
Yeah, we Ayrton wasn't aware that Gmail about a year and a half, 2 years ago split its categories up into useful spam, unuseful spam, and the shit that went directly to your inbox.
I don't know. The past for like a year, it's been just regular, and then like several weeks ago, it decided to update and not do that anymore.
But you managed to come in right at the end of the show. I did decide that once we got through the review, that I would talk a little bit about Doomsday Clock. I'm about 8 issues into the 12-issue series, and I'll just put it like this: it's midnight and Rackets is about to stream. I'm gonna go finish reading Doomsday Clock and probably listen to Rackets in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. No, Chad. He's still calling in from a rotary telephone.
I'm about to start doing the show by smoke signal.
Well, at least we won't have to hear you as much.
Yeah.
But anyway, the first 8 issues of Doomsday Clock, like there are some iffy parts of it, and you can tell that it's written basically in the style of the Watchmen.
Yeah.
They're anywhere from 4 to 6 pages at the end of every issue that show like news articles and documents and shit like that. There's some big superhero conspiracy. The general premise of Doomsday Clock is that when Dr. Manhattan left the Watchmen universe, he came to the DC universe. And
Okay.
that his arrival is almost single-handedly responsible for the inflation of metahumans in the DC universe.
Oh, okay.
So, Matt Christie's reminding everyone to get a Proto Mail account. I still need to do that. I need to reserve Church of Failure.
Photon Mail.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Another account that I need to remember a password for.
Probably. But anyway, Dr. Manhattan has gone to the DC universe and is supposedly responsible for the influx of metahumans. But it's written very similarly to Watchmen. So far, I'm not disappointed in it. There are some tongue-in-cheek points on there. They don't ever show the President of the United States by face, but they reference his Twitter account and a dialogue where he says "huge" a couple of times.
Who's the creative team on it?
You would ask me this. We've got about 5 minutes left. I can look it up.
I would ask you that. Absolutely.
Find my stack here. I went and I was actually able to find all of the floppies for this series at my local comic shop that no longer sells comics. They're not getting new books.
Do they still have like?
They still got back issues and shit.
Do they still have like a bunch? Okay, yeah, I was curious.
Yeah, basically
morbid curiosity, I guess.
Yeah, basically I think they called everybody who had a pull list with them and gave them a couple of weeks to pick up their books before they put them in with the special. And after Christmas and New Year's was over, I was able to kind of go and peruse through that, and I found a full run of Doomsday Clock. So, Jeff Johns on writing, Gary Frank as the illustrator, Brad Anderson on colors, Rob Lee on letters. So a lot of people that we've seen mentioned in 52.
Yeah. All right.
Lenticular cover based on existing art by Dave Gibbons, who was involved with Watchmen.
Okay.
So, but yeah, there's a new Rorschach. Rorschach is spoiler alert. Everybody who doesn't want to know, shut the stream down now. Rorschach is the kid of the psychiatrist that was interviewing Rorschach in the Watchmen book. So that's interesting.
All right.
But
does Lube Man show up in the comic?
Not yet. I'm hoping.
Okay.
There are.
I hope he does.
There are a couple of interesting characters by the name of Marionette and Mime, and I kind of love them.
I can dig it.
But that's just me.
You know, I think Lube Man might have to be my Halloween costume for 2020.
I'm good with I'm gonna have to have you on camera if that's the case, though.
With the lube bottle belt.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a soundboard clip that's your trigger to lube yourself up on stream. Also,
To
you're
put
gonna
some
need
towels down.
you're gonna need to perfect sliding into a storm drain because I'm gonna need you to do that on stream
All right, I'll get to work on that one.
too. Maybe find a storm drain you can get out of first.
You know, Church here with the good ideas.
My man slides into a storm drain and is so excited that he made it on his first try that he forgets to figure out how to get the fuck out of there and starve to death. My trusty co-host, Deadman McCartney.
I'm in there. I'm streaming from the storm drain. It's day 4, guys. I had to eat a rat. I feel like I'm Bear Grylls down here.
I show up not to rescue.
Some crack whore just pissed down in this thing. I think I have AIDS now.
I show up not to save him, but to slip an extension cord and an iPod or an iPhone charger down there.
That sounds about right.
The show must go on, asshole. Aren't you gonna save me? No.
You made your bed, now lay in it, dumbass.
Here's a phone charger and a biscuit from Bojangles. What's a Bojangles?
Probably 1,800 calories just in the one biscuit.
It is smothered in butter, so yes.
Okay.
They're delicious biscuits, so.
Matt, you're not supposed to tell him that. I might have to delete your comment out of the chat there.
You do it and you're fired. I've already read it. I'll have Novel Bro and Matt on here replacing you faster than you can say tin can on a string. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys joining us for this.
See, Novel Bro's assessment, though, of every character would just be like getting a profile of each one to check the nose.
I mean, I might need that in my life. But I do want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with us, listening to us go through 52, issue 1, week 1, and me get drunk on really good bourbon. But with that, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that nonsense, and we will see you again tomorrow night. Next week, we will have special guest on the show, that Rob Doe, I believe is his name.
All right.
And we will have him on, and then we will go through week 2. And that might be a good time to separate out the week 2 and upload it separately on the playlist so that people can follow this along, and then maybe separate out our banter at the end of the show. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
New year, new gospel of comics.
No, don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. But anyway, thanks again, everybody, for coming to hang out. I want to give a good shout out to everybody: Captain Weeb, Einbreg, Matt Christie, Chad Middleton. I think that's everybody. Is that everybody? Novel Bro.
I think Novel Bro made one comment.
No, he made a couple. Made a little block there, and then he disappeared like he is known to. Probably got arrested. You know,
that's fair. Probably. Yeah. He taught his dog how to do the Nazi salute.
I was gonna say, good on you. Thanks for being right there with me. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. Have a great evening.
Good night, everybody.